Robert Bud Dwyer was a man who believed deeply in public service. Born in 1939, he built his career in Pennsylvania politics with a reputation for being dedicated, honest, and tough on fiscal responsibility. Friends called him Bud, and for many years, people saw him as a man climbing steadily toward higher office, someone who had the potential to make an even greater mark on American politics. By 1980, he had reached one of the most important positions in the state, Treasurer of Pennsylvania. It was a powerful role, one that gave him oversight over billions of dollars in taxpayer money. But in the mid-1980s, a scandal would change his life forever. Pennsylvania had made a mistake. For years, the state had been over-collecting income tax from thousands of workers. It was a bureaucratic error that needed fixing, and the solution required an outside company to manage refunds for employees who had been wrongly charged. The contract was worth millions of dollars, and several companies wanted it badly. Among them was Computer Technology Associates, a California-based firm. When the dust settled, CTA got the contract. But soon after, whispers began, rumors of backroom deals, payoffs, and bribes. Federal investigators launched an inquiry, and before long, their attention turned to Robert Bud Dwyer. Prosecutors claimed that Dwyer had accepted a $300,000 bribe from CTA in exchange for ensuring the company got the contract. Dwyer denied it fiercely. He insisted he had never taken money, never sold his integrity. But the investigation moved quickly, and in 1986, he was indicted on 11 counts, including conspiracy, mail fraud, perjury, and racketeering. His trial in Harrisburg was tense and dramatic. Prosecutors painted him as a corrupt politician caught with his hand in the cookie jar. Dwyer, however, maintained his innocence every step of the way. When a verdict came in December 1986, it was devastating, guilty on all counts. The sentence was scheduled for late January.
1987. Dwyer faced up to 55 years in prison and hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines. For a man who had spent his life in politics, the reality was unbearable. Not only was he facing the prospect of dying behind bars, but under state law, his conviction would also strip his family of his pension and benefits. He felt cornered, humiliated, and betrayed by a system he claimed had failed him. In the days leading up to his sentencing, those closest to him noticed his despair. But no one could have predicted what he was planning. On the morning of January 22, 1987, just one day before his sentencing, Dwyer called a press conference at the Pennsylvania state capitol. Dozens of reporters showed up, assuming he was finally going to announce his resignation. The room was crowded, cameras were rolling, and a quiet anticipation hung in the air. When Dwyer stepped up to the microphone, he held a thick envelope filled with papers. His expression was grim but steady. He began to read from a prepared statement. His words were not those of a man stepping down quietly. They were the words of someone who wanted the world to know his side of the story. He repeated his claims of innocence, warning that what had happened to him could happen to anyone. He accused the justice system of corruption and claimed he had been made into a scapegoat. As he spoke, the reporters in the room shuffled uneasily. Some glanced at each other, sensing that something wasn't right. The speech went on for nearly half an hour, and then, in a moment that no one expected, Dwyer reached into the envelope. He pulled out a .357 Magnum revolver. Instant panic broke out. Gasps filled the room. "Don't, Bud!" someone shouted. Others rushed toward him, begging him to put the gun down. But Dwyer held them back with a warning. "Please, this will hurt someone. Don't." There was chaos in the chamber. Reporters pleaded with him, aides tried to move forward, but he raised the weapon quickly, placed the barrel in his mouth, and pulled the trigger. The sound of the gunshot was deafening. Dwyer collapsed instantly, the microphone crashing to the floor. The room erupted in screams, people scrambling for the exits, others frozen in horror. Television cameras, still rolling, captured every second. In an instant, Robert Bud Dwyer was gone.